Find $500 to $2,000 in hidden money leaks. Organize your cash flow and create a money system that actually works with the Money Hunt found inside the Smell of Money community. Join today. The link is in the show notes. In the Smell of Money, a school community hosted by yours truly, Lisa Drennon, founder of I Date Money, a wealth activator, creator of the Money Multiplier System. I know what it's like to feel broke. At age 22, single mom, I filed for bankruptcy. For decades, I lived on a restricted budget, saving 30% and not paying attention to my money. In my 40s, I racked up $100,000 and didn't understand what my problem was until I realized money problems aren't math problems. They're relationship problems, because women don't need another budget. They need a money management system that works. That's why every episode and every conversation we have in the Smell of Money community is designed to help you create cash flow, confidence, and wealth. We turn messy money into an organized system so you can make confident decisions to build true wealth. Whether you're a single or divorced mompreneur who simply wants to stop wondering, where did all the money go, and start telling it where to go, you're in the right place. Join the Smell of Money today. The link is in the show notes. If you're tired of feeling shame about past financial decisions, worried you'll never achieve financial stability, and ready for a clear plan to take control of your money and experience true financial freedom, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Lisa, wealth activator, independent insurance broker, and your guide to rewriting your money story. I learned the secret to creating financial freedom and stability after divorce, and I'm ready to share it with you. If you're ready for steady, stress-free income, clarity with your money, and the confidence to spend without guilt, grab your favorite essential oil, take a deep breath, and let's sniff our way through the smell of money. We have a special guest that's going to be sharing her journey. Pat Hankin has worked in the financial industry, both as a banker and a consultant. She engaged with companies such as Schwab, T. Rowe Price, and the Hartford, bringing them closer to customers' needs. She also moderated an online community of 270,000 single parents. The lack of good information germinated the idea for the Field Guide for Single Parents, Tips to Gain Control of Your Life, a book I'm sure you can get on Amazon, but she'll talk more about that in the show. A significant portion covers personal finance, crafting advice where conventional wisdom misses the mark. A single parent who independently raised her daughter, Pat writes to bring her lessons learned and objective research to all single parents. This is you. Be sure you share the episode. Tune in, get rid of all the distractions, let the kids go watch a video game. Thanks so much, Pat, for being here. I'm really intrigued with this single parent journey. I was a single parent for a decade, I don't know, from 18 to 26.
Okay.
And things I would have never have done. Like I would never travel alone. You know, money and I, we always had this love-hate relationship. We did a lot of silent partner treatment. I filed bankruptcy at 22 and stood in front of the judge who told me I was way too young to learn everything about finances. So I did. I'm a learner. So I went on this quest. And then, you know, I grew up with the story that money burns a hole in your pocket. So I took it all away from me. If you remember the money envelope system, I had my bank accounts with the little envelopes I had on a piece of paper. $5 is going for daycare, for gas, electric, for rent, for this and that. And, you know, I had my savings and my investments, but no fun money. So tell us about your journey. What was it like before you ended up helping these financial gurus and then creating this?
1,000 single parents in one community. Yeah, we had good times together. Personally, my journey is unique to me, just like your journey is unique to you. Unlike you, I was an older mom. And I had a career that was in financial services. First, I was a banker. Then I was a global management consultant, which is a fancy way of saying I helped companies solve problems. And a lot of that was stripping down things to their bare essentials and focusing on what mattered. And it was that skill that I learned that I brought to being able to advise other companies about how to engage more with their clients. And that pretty much 25% of the major financial companies I worked with over the course of my career. And once I moved out of that, I retired at the age of 59, went to look poking around, and I found this single parent community. My daughter was now at university. I had some time, And I felt I had something to offer to people now that I'm on the other side of it. And the
Mhm.
authenticity of the people in this community was so impressive. I wanted to engage with them. I had become a single parent older than you, probably twice your age. I was almost 40. So it
Mhm.
meant that my career was well established. I had a 401k, I had money in the bank, but I had no financial support from anyone else.
Mhm.
That career and that savings disappeared very quickly once I
Mm.
became a parent. I think everyone, including myself, underestimates how expensive it is to be a parent in general, not even just single parents. And the return to financial health was not linear so that I could retire at 59. Things happen. There are high need years and lower need years. And the moral of the story is that you should never live off your good years, which
Mhm.
it took me a while to learn that lesson. Oh, I've always made this kind of money. I've always made this good money. I can spend it. And what happened is I hit two major recessions right after my daughter was born. One was the tech bust, which
Mhm.
heavily impacted Massachusetts, where I live. And the other one was, of course, the financial collapse of 2008, 2009.
Mhm.
So that my daughter is in a boom bust industry. She's in biotech. That's where she works. We all know what's happening to them right now. So,
Mhm.
unless you're working in a grocery store, you pretty much are susceptible to the things beyond your control
Mhm.
oftentimes. Sometimes, and that's how I developed this nonlinear. I used to be, you never borrow money, right? Pay off something every month. I started to zoom out and look at the bigger picture that the goal, we're working on a 25-year plan here to raise your kids to independence.
Right.
And sometimes you have to borrow money, but how you do that and how you pay it back, like your program, is really what's important here. Sometimes you need a new roof, a new car, some college money or medical costs. Those are appreciating things that cause you to be able to keep a career, to keep your job, to keep the wolf from the door. Those kind of things are are really important to look at over the long term, as
Mhm.
opposed to just saying, no, 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 no. No, only buy a used car with cash. Worst advice you can give a single parent. What happens when that saddle car dies? You can't get to work, and then you're labeled unreliable, right? So there are things that you have to look at when it comes to these major decisions, and keeping your credit score up or getting it up so that when you do have to borrow it, it's less expensive.
Mhm.
But um, it's those are the kind of things that I talk about that are different than a lot of other money gurus that are so
Yeah, I know a
famous.
lot of money gurus will say, well, be debt free. You don't, you want to pay cash. Cash used to be king, but I mean, I love 0% credit cards. That's how I racked up $100,000 worth of debt in my 40s.
I was
Uh,
wondering how you did that.
yeah, I got really creative. I got all these 0% credit cards. I tell it in my podcast in the late 2022, early 2023 series, but it's an addiction, like, like overeating, over drinking, like it's money power. So when I had set up my money system, I didn't have any fun with my money. Everything was allocated for investment savings, college education, emergency fund, but there was no fun. Like I wouldn't even get my nails done. Never. I got my hair cut once a year. Like I can't afford, I got to take care of my kids. I can't afford
Mhm.
that. And, if I went, I had a little vacation fund. So I had a fund, and I call them money buckets for everything, but I wasn't enjoying my money. So I felt like I needed to work more, and the more money I got, the more money would allocate towards savings, investments, vacation, whatever. But those everyday little things where you treat yourself, where you can calm your nervous system, where you can walk into a restaurant with your girlfriends, order what you want, not have to worry about it. You're not always getting the chicken or the salad. You can actually get, the shrimp or whatever. And I thought, what is wrong? Like, what is this clicking that we need to do? And as I think as singles, parents especially,
Mhm.
you feel like everything is so tight. You don't have that support system that if you do spend any money, you become so frugal that you're afraid to spend any money. And then you create reasons as to why you can't afford. But as soon as it comes to your kids, the pocketbook opens up. Oh, you need that? Honey? No problem.
It is. Everybody's got their own weak point. Some people,
Yeah.
it's pets, right?
Yeah,
Pets.
exactly. So
They'll
the
spend thousands
0%,
on
like,
pets.
when I started leveraging the debt, to like, I can do a remodel, I can renovate my kitchen on a 0% credit card, and then just save that money, earn interest on the savings account, and then pay off that balance when it comes due, 12 months later or whatever it is. Or like, getting a mortgage at a 3% rate versus taking out of an investment account that's got a return of an investment of, 10 to 12%. So
Right.
there's definitely ways to leverage that. But as you'd mentioned earlier about their credit score, it's so important to keep that credit score 750 and above is prime for great offers,
Hmm.
to get that lower interest rate. So what do you do? I know you wrote a book. So tell us
Right.
about this book and this journey and how you're helping. Like, if you could give advice to a single parent tuning in right now who maybe has some debt, they're renting, they want to buy a house, but they don't feel like they have even enough money to get the car fixed. What kind of advice would you share with them?
Well, the first advice is very similar to what you start with everybody starts with also in some form or another, is to know what you have coming in
Mhm.
and what you have going out, and and what is going out and what's optional and what's necessary. A steady diet of takeouts probably optional, but once a week for a single parent is probably sanity saving.
Mhm.
So there are things that those two columns are pretty critical to understand. Now, Lisa, I taught money management for young professionals entering the workforce. And generally I'd say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, come back in and track everything you spend. And half the class would check out and not come back
Aw.
in.
Okay.
You know?
You missed out on so much.
I know, especially since I'm such a fun instructor. But a lot of the time, those people didn't know where to start because their parents hadn't taught them.
Mhm.
This was shocking to me because I grew up also in a single parent household. My dad was an accountant, but we never saw him. But all these money lessons came from my very struggling single parent mom. So she taught me rules of thumb, how much you should spend on rent, how much your mortgage should be, how much your food budget should be, lots of things that people just didn't have the benefit to
Mhm.
learn every day. All they heard was you can't afford it.
Right.
Well, how do we afford it? What I'd like to start for the people listening now is there is some research done. We talk about it in the book. This book is heavily fact checked. So it's not a memoir about me. This is the voices of 470,000 people and my experience working in finance for the last 40 years. The three big expenses that can wipe out any bad decision on these can wipe out anything you would save using a coupon site or cutting out lattes. I hate that advice. How much
Never
do I
cut
have to
out.
talk about how much I was just like, who came up with that? Was it
We
Susie
won't
Orman?
name any names.
No, I think she retracted it. So you guys can go get your coffee. But the three big ones are housing, education, and vacations.
Mhm.
And what you spend on that and how you spend on that is going to have a far greater impact than if you cut out the little wasters of your money. And I'm all for knowing what you're wasting money on, right? You gotta be vigilant on this. Every time I look, there's 3 subscriptions I didn't realize where all of a sudden I was being charged for. I
Right.
wasn't vigilant, right? So yes, you have to be vigilant. And then after a while, you're going to think it's kind of fun. Believe it
Mm.
or not, it's a game. What can you cut down the next month, or what can you save for? And let's talk about vacations. I live in Boston's a very expensive place.
Mhm.
The latest MIT living wage calculator that you can find on their website says you have to make $122,000 a year for you to stay off subsidies when you have kids. It's probably higher now. I haven't looked at it in a couple of years. And you can go on there and you can see for any county in the United States what that number is. And this is an expensive place. And people will say, I'm taking my kids to Europe. They're 10 years old. They're not going to remember anything to go to. That the other one is Disney. I mean, you don't have to go to Europe or to Disney to be able to have a fun vacation. And my game, now, I had traveled all over the world for my job. I didn't feel the urgent need to ever get on another plane again. We started this, and there's this diagram in the book of this concentric circles. We started camping in the backyard. Then we started the local parks, walking around then and the local sites. And as she became older and could understand what was going on, a visit to the town dump was an adventure at the youngest ages, right? As you can understand, then we started moving out to see friends and families in other states. For some reason, she had it in her head to go to Oklahoma. And I had an old friend who lived in Oklahoma. And we would go see cowboys and Indians. I mean, what could be better?
Mhm.
They're all different cultures, different places. We live in a bubble up here in New England. It's really important to get out and see the rest of the country. We ended up with national parks. Then as a teenager, she kind of got really cool. So we went to different cities like Nashville, New Orleans. New Orleans stuck on her. I took her down there for the 10th anniversary of Katrina. I had been with the Red Cross at the time of Katrina to see, what mommy had done. And she remembered all those years later when it came time to go to college, and she actually went to university down there.
How cool.
By the time she went to college, Lisa, she had been to 47 of the 50 states and 3 other countries.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great experience.
But anybody can do this on very little money. And we talk about ways to do that. I think one of the things that happens, or what I heard from the people in the community, was when they had a goal or a challenge, they didn't know where to start. So my goal in this book was to give people starting points, not to live my life, but to live their life.
I love that. And so many people think that they can't afford something. I liked how you rephrase that. How can I afford it? The
Mhm.
conversation we have in our head about money is so important. And one of the things we do in the Wealth Accelerator is a Dear Money letter. And it's like, how do you really feel about money? And it's when you're living in this restriction and you constantly tell yourself, I can't afford it, you never
Mhm.
will be able to afford it. But when you start to look for innovative ways to vacation, starting off with the camping and, going and visiting the friends. I had a coworker who did, something with a K, hostels. She actually stayed in these little hostels, I think they were called. But they were like a camping thing, but, like everybody slept in like this one big room with these
Yep.
cots. And I was like, "You're crazy. I would never do that."
Which is an option. It's an option. There's some interesting books written on it. We've stayed Airbnb came about at sort of halfway through this adventure. I was never fond of it. I wanted to go to a hotel and be waited on or
Right,
be able to get breakfast. Our hotel of choice was Best Western. We racked up the points on Best Western if there was no friend around. She didn't know it wasn't the Ritz.
right.
Now I think she does now. She was an adventure. It was someplace. It was a new bed to sleep in. And kids don't do really well with change, and you really got to ease them into it.
Yeah,
I didn't start her off going to Alaska,
right.
but that 2-week trip on a train was unbelievable.
Train rides are so much fun.
Yeah, you could do overnights.
We
There are
actually
fun things.
ride from New York to Boston, and that was a blast. We had so much fun.
It's not. I guess the goal is for them to get new experiences and learn how to deal in unfamiliar environments,
Mhm,
and that raises a resilient child.
mhm,
That's, not to say there won't be bumps along the way, but your goal is to and you can do this as a single parent.
mhm.
If you're minimizing the variables about your trip, then you can do this. It won't be stressful. It will actually be fun.
Yes, and making it fun is really important. I mean, when you think about, single moms raising their children and the restrictive budget, when we talked about, cutting back the lattes, whatever, you had talked about, them spending money on all these trips and things of that nature. What is a good balance for single moms to be able to look at the money coming in? Because I know a lot of single moms are working 1 or 2 jobs.
Mhm.
Maybe they're not getting any support from the other parent. So giving them support, what could they instill like today that will help them feel like they have money available to do something that they really love to do with their family?
My favorite is the time value of money. Have you worked with your clients on that?
Mhm.
So maybe you want to briefly explain the calculus on this one?
Yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
So you take the money you bring in, net of taxes. You can see it on your paycheck or in your bank account if you're a gig worker. You subtract the costs to earn that money. If you have to have a wardrobe or pay childcare or get to work on the transit or a car, and then you divide that number by the number of hours you're engaged in being employed.
Mhm.
So that it's not just a 40 hours. You divide it by 40 hours plus the commuting time.
Mhm.
That gives you your hourly wage, and it is a little depressing when you look at it, but stay with me. I mean, I really thought I was making $35 an hour. Well, you got to take out all these things. But I give the example in there of using the average wage in Massachusetts. Any time you can hire out a job that is less, let's say your net comes out to your time value of your time, the value of your time, $17 an hour. Anytime you can hire out something less than that, you should do that. And that's going to go a long way to relieving your stress.
Mhm.
It will. I give the example in there about hemming my daughter's pants. I'm probably one of the last people I know who knows how to hem a pair of pants. She brought them home from college because I never taught her how to hem a pair of pants. They had gotten rid of home ec in school by this time. Big mistake. So she was home, college break, 3 pairs of pants. 2 I got done. It took me 2 hours each one, but I have all the materials and she's getting ready to go back to school and I haven't done the denim pair yet. Well, denim is really hard to hem and I'm not versed in retaining the stitching. So I called the local dry cleaner and I said, how much to hem these pants? And they said $18. Well, 2 hours, that's $9 an hour. My net value time is $17 an hour. Can you take them today? Can I have them tomorrow? Because she's getting on a plane. No problem, lady. And that's a perfect example of you think you don't have the money to do it, but you're really gaining because you could take those 2 extra hours and go work and
Mhm.
make $34.
Right. Yeah. And it is so important to evaluate that because I know a lot of our listeners are solopreneurs and they're doing all these tasks themselves, thinking they can't afford a VA or, hiring somebody to edit their podcast or whatever it is that they need. And they're spending all this time and energy and they're exhausted. And a lot
Yeah.
of them get burnt out and then oh, this isn't making any money. Let's go on to the next thing.
Mm.
No, let's hire out. And when you apply that formula and you can start to see the value and it frees up your time and energy. You get release that stress so that you can do the tasks that you need to do to create the ROI that you want. And you become laser focused. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this show, especially, don't have those foundations in place. They start off thinking, wow, I can make a lot of money being a coach. I was talking to someone yesterday and they didn't really have a direction as to what kind of a business they wanted. And they were working odd jobs, but they were traveling. Ironically, they were traveling overseas. They just got back from an Antarctica month-long cruise, I guess.
Okay.
But they were struggling to, have steady streams of income coming in and, they're working all these odd jobs. I'm confused. So we talked about that and I said, well, what is it that you want to do for a business? Well, I want to coach women to help them gain confidence on charging their value. Have
Mhm.
you ever done that before? Well, no. Well, how are we going to coach somebody something that we've never done before? And I just think we get caught up, especially a lot of young entrepreneurs who are looking for that fast cash that I can make so much money. A lot of the MRR, LM, I'm getting all my letters confused here. MLMs, MRRs,
Oh, yeah.
MSSs,
Yeah.
all of those, platforms where even as an independent insurance broker, I've had clients call me up who lost their job and they started looking for a job and they're like, hey, Lise, I got this phone call from this broker who says I can make, $30,000 selling insurance. Is that true? I'm like, well, let's put it in perspective. This is the legwork you need to do to
Right.
get there. Do you have that time to commit? Like, no, I can't wait that long. When you can start to look at the bigger picture and step back and get all the facts, that's when you're investing your time and your money wisely. So I
Yeah,
love
you
how
have to it takes
bring that.
nobody gets rich overnight, and get rich schemes are I think it's 10% of people in MLMs ever get their initial investment back.
Yeah, is it 10%? I thought it was a lot. I thought it was like 1% got it
Oh,
back.
wow, you're even worse. Okay, I'll let you be the bad guy here
I,
telling the whole thing, yeah. But
yeah,
it's not a good thing for a single parent to be doing that. It's
and it takes a lot of
no,
work to build
it
that up.
does. most people don't realize once you're through your list of friends and family, it's the commissions dry up and
Yeah.
it's really hard for me to turn down some of these people selling the stuff, but there's only so much I can have. And I have. I bought it from a friend. I bought insurance. It actually turned out to be it was disability insurance as a single parent. That was really important. And I bought it when I was young enough that it was cheap enough. And this is a guy I had worked with. I really enjoyed him and his wife. He was the smartest guy I ever worked with, but his life, financial life went down the toilet for some decisions that he
Mhm.
made, and he swung for the fences, as you say, and uh, ended up selling insurance. And then, of course, he lasted maybe a year,
Yeah.
even though I did buy it from him. But it was worthwhile. But at some point, you're going to be offered insurance by someone you know. I
Mhm.
suggest going to an independent broker that you don't know. That might
Well,
be
I
having a
have a lot of
podcast.
friends that are my clients, but yeah, you definitely wanna work with I'm an independent insurance broker. You definitely wanna work with somebody that's gonna offer you plans that are to your advantage and know what you're
Hmm.
buying. I'm working with a couple now that was sold some plans, and I'm looking at the face value of these policies. He is so underinsured, and the monthly premium is astronomical. And I was like, "What? Why?" I know why. It's because it's a higher commission base. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who just sell you things for commission. And it's so important to listen to your gut. And I especially think for single and divorced mompreneurs, we're we don't trust people. No, we don't trust people. We've been burned before. We want to protect ourselves. When we get the money, we want to hold on to it and make sure we're using it wisely, spending it.
Well, using it wisely is using your time wisely too,
Yeah.
which we talked about. And in
Mhm.
the other one, when we talk about education, there's the whole thing you said about our kids, the wallet's open. Well, there's the whole issue of big name school versus a state university.
Yeah.
And there are ways we talk a lot in the book about managing the cost of education and ways to go about that. There are many levers to push. Don't sell yourself short by thinking there's only one that you should do. That's what I would say. You and I can give people 50 different things that they can do on
Mhm.
that. But knowing the value of your time in terms of not feeling so deprived, but understanding why this really is moving you and your family forward. And I do want to make a point about child support. First of all, it is time limited. It doesn't go on forever. Secondly, it is notoriously a lot less than what people think it is in this country.
Mhm.
The average is 900 a year, and that's not going to buy you anything.
Mhm.
And, some people may have, a lot more than that, depends where they are. But there's actually a pretty good book by a woman named Emma Johnson that talks about financial independence
Mhm.
being the goal of divorced moms, single
Mhm.
moms. Um, her book primarily addresses pretty wealthy people, but there's some lessons to be learned in there too
Yeah.
about the goal shouldn't be to go fight to the death for more child support. It should be to find other things that'll get you in the same way, in the
Right.
same place.
Yeah. And being able to earn your money and manage it so that it does multiply because, that there's a whole strategy of that. I mean, I have clients that make $33,000 a year that are millionaires. And what makes them different? It's just their lifestyle, how they choose to spend their money. And yes, they still have fun. They go on vacation. It's just the choices that they make every single day. You'd mentioned going out to eat. There's some people who go out to eat 4 or 5 times a week. That's very expensive.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't. Do you?
it's
I don't go.
out. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy eating out that much. It's gotta be a very special restaurant. When you know how to cook, you just tend to like to cook. But there's different ways, like, we mentioned cutting back lattes and things of that nature. You don't have to do that. But if your goal is to have $1 million in an investment account or invest in real estate or to go on, to travel the world, why aren't you reaching that goal? I had a client who wanted to go to Ireland and she
Okay.
was still working and she kept saying, "Oh, I can't afford it. I can't afford it." I says, "Well, make yourself afford it. Let's set up a money bucket for it." So when we started contributing, we started looking at where her money was going. Every Saturday, she went to Target and went to the clearance rack and bought stuff. I go, "Well, what do you do with that stuff that you buy?" She says, "Well, I don't know." I go, "Well, think about it." She puts it in a drawer. It still had the tags on it. And I said, "Okay, well, what if you took that? How much are you spending?" Well, between $40 to $80 a week. But what if you took that same amount of money and put it in a savings account that earns high interest and earmarked it for Ireland? Within a year, she had money to go to Ireland.
Yeah, I would start with the alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
Going
Well, I did that. I saved a lot of money.
Yeah, I would start with what's it cost to have a drink out now? $20,
Oh, yeah.
$25.
Yeah.
It's just like give me ginger ale. I think that's $10 now, actually.
Yeah.
But I
But
think
there are
there
certain
are
ways.
little wasters of your money that add up, and those are big
Yeah.
ones.
And when you
And
start tracking it and paying attention to it, you start to realize that.
well, so my goal, I had two goals as a single parent. One was to have a chaos-free life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that involved me reducing the number of things that I did, which therefore reduced my budget. It was just, I consciously decided the things I just wasn't going to do. And it's different, right? You like to get your nails done. I can't sit there that long. So it's, I'm a little hyper, right? So it's going to look different for you than for me. I don't have any family nearby, so I wasn't socializing with them. That freed up a lot of time to go to the parks or to go camping or to visit the aquarium or things like that, using
Mm-hmm.
passes from the library. By the way, the libraries are very different than the libraries of our childhood, Lisa. You
Mm-hmm.
can borrow just about anything there now, including a 3D printer.
Oh, really?
They have streaming services that are free, the Libby app.
Wow.
You could listen to audiobooks for free. It's not just borrowing, but I do counsel people to go sit in the section 337 and read all the money books for families. That's always a good place to start. But
That's
it
fun.
is, get your kid a bunch of books and just sit there. But they have classes. There's just so much you can substitute for free in your budget than from the.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we love doing things for free, especially in our business. I know a lot of
Mhm.
entrepreneurs build up a lot of business expenses that are unnecessary when you could literally do it for free. And the big culprit, and I'm sorry to all you website designers out there, but
So
not need a website. I'm sorry. There's someone that told me that when I was starting out. Um,
you do need a website, or you don't need a
no, you do
website.
not when you're starting out. You Google Doc. I had a business coach who taught me after I invested in the website that I did not like. She said you could just done it with a Google Doc. I'm like, what? Yeah. I mean, we work our way up to these things. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think the only people who need a website are those who have products. You're selling courses or products, but if you're just selling a service, you do not need a website for that. So,
I need a website to look up somebody's phone number sometimes. That's about it.
yeah, nowadays you just Google it. What's the phone number? I've found a lot of phone numbers that way. Well,
I
thank
think
you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. But I did want to say that one of the other important things that single parents need to spend money on, and that's childcare, and a
Yeah,
lot of it. So you can't feel badly for that.
right. And childcare can be very expensive, but you're paying for quality care. It's quality care.
Well, you want people that allow you to go work, right?
Yeah,
That they show up and
yeah,
that
and you
they're
want your
there.
kids in a safe place that's
Yeah.
you can depend on. Well, thank you so much for sharing all those words of wisdom. Now
Oh, it was fun.
tell us about your book and how our audience can connect with you and get the book.
So the book is The Field Guide for Single Parents, Practical Tips to Gain Control of Your Life. It's it was informed by those 470,000 single parents. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it in your local library. And if they don't have it, you can ask them to order it. It's now in 10% of U.S. libraries. And I do have a website that it'll just direct you to Amazon and to bookshop.org. So you can go on there and
What's the name of your website?
pathankin.com.
Perfect. No, it's perfect. It's easy to remember. Thank
Mhm.
you. So those of you listening, go to the website, pathankin.com, get the book on Amazon, go connect with Pat, especially if you want to know more about how to navigate these things, free travel. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, asking yourself, how can I afford it? Because remember, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with it. Hey, mompreneurs, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, please follow the show and share it with a friend who's rebuilding her finances after divorce. No spreadsheets, no restrictive budgets, only confidence to build financial freedom. Also, please drop a quick 5-star review so more moms starting over can find this. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. Inhale confidence, exhale scarcity. I'll meet you back on Tuesday for another episode. It doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with it.